There are beers in the UK that are made almost identically to a type of test liquid used for laboratory mice rather than for humans to drink. I am not exaggerating. There are some that people in the industry openly call the death beer because a single can is enough to throw your heart off rhythm and make your blood pressure jump and drop like a faulty lift. The most frightening part is that it still sits right there on supermarket shelves, directly in front of millions of people over 50 in the UK. You think you are drinking beer, but in reality, many of these are nothing more than cheap mixtures resembling diluted acid. I am willing to bet that at least one of these worst offenders has found its way into your shopping basket at some point. And today, I will say it plainly. Which one is the most dangerous? Which one you should avoid immediately? And in particular, which one is actually the safest for people over 50, despite being a beer many have taken for granted? Number 7. Carlsberg Special Brew. You may find this hard to believe, but it must be said. There is a beer still sold legally in supermarkets as legal as bread and milk, yet its level of danger for anyone over 50 is higher than that of many diseases you once feared. It sounds dramatic, but one only needs to look at the number of alcohol poisonings, fall-related accidents, hospital admissions due to arrhythmia and liver failure linked to this beer to understand why I call it the death beer. I am talking about Carlsberg Special Brew. Special Brew has long had a very particular place in British drinking culture, especially among the older generation. You may remember it from the 80s and 90s in the hands of drunk men in parks or next to bus stop benches in big cities. It has never been seen as a beer to enjoy. It is a tool for getting drunk quickly, for forgetting sorrow, for knocking the body out for a few hours, rather than sipping leisurely. That is why many shops put up signs refusing to sell super strength lager, even though it is completely legal. They fear trouble, they fear aggression, they fear people collapsing right outside their front door. And yet this beer still exists, still sells steadily, and sometimes ends up in the basket of an older person simply because it is cheap familiar or they feel curious enough to try it. What makes Special Brew alarmingly absurd is its alcohol content. A large can containing up to 8 or 9% alcohol may sound similar to a strong craft beer, but it is not. This is a cheap beer produced with low-cost ingredients, glucose syrup, and an optimized fermentation process designed to produce as much alcohol as possible. This means each can contains nearly 4 units. If you drink 2 cans in one evening after a meal, you have already exceeded the weekly limit recommended by the NHS for people over 50. Worse still, because the alcohol is dense and absorbed quickly, its effect is nothing like the 4% beers you might be used to. It is closer to drinking diluted spirits. That is why some call it the crack cocaine of the beer world. I did not invent that phrase. It is how several British health organisations describe it in community reports. Many local councils have had to launch campaigns to restrict its sale, not because they dislike Carlsberg, but because the number of hospital admissions linked to super-strength cans like Special Brew is simply too high. Some shops have banned it entirely. Carlsberg even had to change the can size to reduce the number of units displayed on the label, purely to make it seem less frightening. But the alcohol content remains, and so does the nature of the drink. It is still something that strikes directly at the liver, heart and brain, especially in middle age and beyond. Special Brew sits at the bottom of the list, not because it tastes bad, but because it is utterly unsuitable for anyone over 50. And more worryingly, it is not the only super strength beer capable of causing these problems. There is another that is strong notorious and has caused plenty of trouble for older drinkers. We will talk about it next. Number 6. Skol Super. You know what worries me most about Skol Super is not how strong it is, but the fact that it does not feel threatening at first sight. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary lager with soft colours and no hint of warning. When you drink it, it is smooth, not harsh, not immediately dizzying. And that deceptive gentleness is precisely why I must place it here. Skol Super is not as loud as the one at the bottom of the list. It is not associated with unpleasant street images, nor does it regularly make headlines whenever super-strength alcohol is discussed. But it appears in places very familiar to older people. The fridge in the kitchen, a corner shelf in small shops in older neighbourhoods, next to the sofa of someone who lives alone. It is not a beer you drink for fun, but something many reach for when they cannot sleep, want to relax quickly, or feel sad without knowing what else to do. The most concerning part is that Skol Super is extremely easy to drink. Its smoothness hides its true strength. You drink one can and feel absolutely fine. You open the second with no warning signs from your body. Yet the nearly 8% alcohol quietly enters your bloodstream, just as though you were drinking spirits, only without the clarity to recognize it. This is exactly the type of danger that leads emergency doctors in the UK to see so many older people with irregular heartbeat dizziness collapsing in the bathroom or passing out when simply standing up from a chair. Another issue few notice: the body over 50 absorbs alcohol very differently. For those with high blood pressure, Skol Super makes the heart rate rise and then turn irregular suddenly, particularly within 20 to 40 minutes of drinking. People with diabetes are vulnerable to blood sugar spikes or drops, especially if drinking on an empty stomach or using it to help them sleep. Those with fatty liver will feel the liver react quickly as the concentrated alcohol enters the system without any warning sensations. Anyone taking sleeping tablets, heart medication, blood pressure medication, or diabetes medication is far more likely to become deeply drowsy or lose balance in a dangerous way. And what troubles me most is that Skol Super is often drunk alone in silence with no one nearby to notice when something goes wrong. And interestingly, from this point onward, the story is no longer about super strength beers. Some look harmless with much lower alcohol, yet they cause their own kind of trouble. Prepare for number 5, a name that may frustrate you. Number 5, Foster's. You know the phenomenon of biscuits shrinking, chocolate bars getting thinner, and crisp packets being mostly air. People call it shrinkflation, reducing quantity while keeping the price the same. But you may be a little startled when I say this. Even the beer you drink has its own version of shrinkflation. Not the can getting smaller, not a few milliliters disappearing, but losing the one thing beer drinkers actually care about: the alcohol. You do not lose a drop of liquid, but you lose the very sensation that makes you call it beer. And that is the story of Foster's. You open a can of Foster's, finish it, and feel absolutely nothing. No warm face, no soft buzz like before. You think it is because you are feeling stronger today, or because you have eaten well. But that is not it. Foster's used to be stronger, fuller, more flavourful. The Foster's of today is quietly weakening year by year, from 4% down to 3.7%, and many reports suggest it will soon fall further to 3.4%. Meanwhile, the price stays exactly where it is, refusing to drop. The press calls this drinkflation, a type of inflation only Britain could come up with, where the beer becomes weaker, but the price certainly does not. Foster's drinkers react in a rather British way. No shouting, no slamming tables, just a gentle irritation. The pint today does not feel like the pint from 10 years ago. Some even joke that it feels like drinking mineral water with a hint of beer. It is not a furious anger, like when supermarkets raise prices, but an itch-like annoyance. You drink to relax, only to find yourself opening another can, simply to feel the way you used to. And the amusing part is that the more you drink, the more you realize you are spending more money to receive less alcohol. But here is what I want you to listen to carefully. For those over 50, the lower alcohol is actually good news. As Foster's weakens, your heart does not have to strain as much, your blood pressure is less likely to spike. Your heartbeat is less easily thrown off. Your liver processes it more quickly without being pushed as hard as with 4 or 5% lager. You are less likely to wake at night due to alcohol disrupting your sleep. Interactions with heart medication, blood pressure tablets, and diabetes medication are also far gentler. So even if you feel cheated paying for a pint that delivers a weaker experience, your body is quietly thankful for that weakness. This is the most ironic part of Foster's. Still, I'm not saying Foster's is harmless. It brings a type of problem the too strong beers do not, because it is so light you drink it faster. Then you drink more. And because you feel nothing, you drink even more. By the end of the evening, the total amount of beer you have consumed may actually exceed what you would have drunk with a stronger lager. And that is the real issue for anyone over 50. Drinking more means more calories, fluctuating blood sugar, bloating, poor sleep, and most importantly, exceeding the NHS recommended units without even noticing. You do not need high alcohol content. Drinking large amounts is enough to tire the heart and push your blood pressure up. Foster's does not knock you down immediately. It makes you complacent. It makes you believe you are in control when in truth you have drunk more than your body wants. If you think a light beer can cause this many complications, wait until the next one. No drinkflation, no alcohol reduction, not a super strength beer yet. It makes many people in Britain drink in a very strange way. It is so dull that I want to throw it straight into the bin. Number 4. Carling. There is no beer name quite as dull as Carling, and you know that is not an insult but a truth. Everyone whispers quietly to one another in the pub. Carling does not frighten you, does not intrigue you, and does not create any particular feeling. It is the sort of thing you order when you have no idea what to order. A safe, familiar, easy choice. And it is precisely that ease that makes me want to talk to you today. Because at this age, the easiest thing is sometimes the one that sends you out of control fastest. Carling is a beer of memories. If you have lived in the UK for a few decades, you have seen it beside football, BBQs, cheap pubs, Friday nights, any night at all. Not classy, like Peroni, not strong like Stella, yet the one that appears the most. It is the beer of habit. You do not choose Carling out of affection, but because it is always there. You open the fridge, see a can, drink it. You step into a pub, unsure what to pick. You order Carling. Watching football, your friends open Carling, so you hold one too. A habit repeated for tens of years is exactly what makes Carling dangerous in its own way. What I want you to pay attention to is that Carling is so bland it makes you drink continuously without any natural pause. You do not feel your face warm up and tell you to slow down. You do not taste enough bitterness to sip more carefully. You do not feel heaviness that makes you think twice. Carling slips into the body like water, and you keep drinking simply because there is no reason to stop. That is the biggest difference between Carling and the strong beers earlier in the list. Those make you worried, Carling makes you forget. A kind of forgetting that is very harmful once you are over 50. The British have actually realised this for a long time. A pub goers survey in 2025 called Carling the dullest beer in the UK. I doubt anyone disagrees, but think about it, dull in beer means you keep drinking without feeling anything. And in the case of Carling, that very lack of flavour makes it the beer most often binged. You do not drink Carling because it is good, but because it does not make you stop. Especially during long occasions such as football or family gatherings, Carling can easily turn a cheerful evening into one where you have had far too much. It would be a mistake to talk about Carling without mentioning the alcohol content lawsuit. They were once taken to court for the actual alcohol level being lower than the number printed on the label. Carling eventually escaped due to tax-related reasons, but that does not change the drinker's experience. You drink and feel unusually little, then drink more and more again. and it is that more that harms people over 50 more than any other beer label. Carling was already mild, and measurements showed it was milder still. It does not create a clear feeling, does not trigger any natural warning in the body, letting you exceed safe units without realizing it. Once you are 50 and over, what determines your health is not just the alcohol content of one pint, but the total amount over the whole evening. Carling is light, so you drink faster, drink more, and that is the risk. Drinking 3 to 4 pints of Carling in one night may sound harmless, but for those with high blood pressure, diabetes, or on heart medication, that amount of alcohol is enough to shift the heartbeat, make blood sugar fluctuate, and push blood pressure up later at night. Older adults are prone to dizziness when standing up, and I have seen many cases of falls caused not by strong beer, but by drinking too much light beer. If you think dullness is the biggest issue with Carling, you will be surprised by what comes next. There is a beer that is not bland at all, not flavourless, even considered iconic, a source of pride, yet misunderstood by many older people generation after generation. And that misunderstanding is the real point. Let me tell you about it now. Number 3, Guinness. At number 3 in today's list, we finally step out of the high alert zone and reach a beer that people over 50 in the UK can genuinely consider. Guinness is the first pint on this list that brings a sense of reassurance when you hold it. I believe if you are British or have lived in the UK for many years, you understand this feeling. A properly poured pint of Guinness, the white head rising slowly, the smooth black body, the satisfying weight of the glass, the gentle rounded taste, no harshness, no rush. Guinness is not a beer for getting drunk. Guinness is a beer to savour. And that is exactly why it appears at number 3, opening the group of beers that are all right. Those people over 50 can drink without much worry. From a health perspective, Guinness has quite a few genuine strengths. The alcohol sits around 4.1% lower than most strong lagers, like Stella or Peroni. For older adults with sensitive hearts, unstable blood pressure, or those prone to arrhythmia with alcohol, this level is far safer. Guinness also contains fewer additives and fewer adjuncts thanks to roasted barley providing extra polyphenols. It does not cause a sudden spike in blood pressure like some gassy lagers, nor does it make your heart beat erratically in the same stimulating way. 1 pint of Guinness in the evening, if drunk slowly, is generally handled very well by the body. But as I always say, every beer has two sides, and Guinness is no exception. The reason it does not climb higher is because it has a blind spot many over 50 overlook: carbs. 1 pint of Guinness contains about 125 to 150 kcal, similar to a small bowl of rice. For those with type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, or who are trying to maintain weight, this amount of carbohydrate can make blood sugar rise after dinner. And if you have gout or high uric acid, you must also be careful, because Guinness can trigger that familiar painful flare. Guinness is not strong, but it is smooth. And smooth makes it easy to drink 2, even 3 pints. Before you know it, you have taken in nearly 7 units in one evening. Fine for the young, but for anyone over 50, that is enough to disrupt sleep, fluctuate blood pressure, create mild arrhythmia, and leave you more tired than usual the next morning. I must also clarify this because many older people believe Guinness builds blood. A belief passed down from parents and grandparents, repeated until it feels true. But in reality, the iron content in Guinness is extremely low, nowhere near enough to be considered helpful, and certainly not a replacement for supplements or medication. In fact, if you are on blood thinners, Guinness is not the right choice at all. This is a common misunderstanding, and at this age, small misunderstandings can cause big inconveniences. And if Guinness is the pint you feel confident ordering when you walk into a pub, the next name is even gentler, lighter, and naturally suited to the bodies of people over 50. Number 2. John Smith's Extra Smooth. If you walk into a pub in the north of England on a Friday afternoon, you will see a very familiar scene. Younger people holding lagers, a few who like to show off drinking craft beer, and the experienced ones, hair already greying, sitting comfortably with a pint of John Smith's. It is not the kind of beer anyone shows off on social media, nor does it appear on fancy menus. But it is the pint chosen week after week, year after year, by many people over 55. That quiet, reliable ordinariness is exactly what brings John Smith's to number 2 on today's list. John Smith's is the kind of beer you do not need to learn to like. No need to detect floral notes, no need to wince at bitterness, no need to pretend to understand beer. A sip is smooth, rounded, gentle and decent. The low carbonation means no bloating, no heartburn, no stomach irritation. For older adults, that alone makes an evening far more pleasant. It is like an old friend who has been with you since your 30s and still stays by your side at 60, just as gentle, just as undemanding. Health-wise, John Smith's has clear advantages that anyone over 50 will feel right from the first pint. Its alcohol content is only around 3.6 to 3.8% lower than Guinness and lower than most common lagers. 1 pint amounts to roughly 2 units or less, so the heart is not pushed unexpectedly. Blood pressure does not jump, and the liver is not forced into overwork. For those who still enjoy going to the pub, but whose bodies can no longer tolerate stronger beers, John Smith's is like a soft landing, letting you keep your social habits without sacrificing your health. But no matter how gentle it is, John Smith's is still real beer. And real beer always has limits, however soft those limits may be. Number 1 is entirely different. It is the beer you can raise to your lips without worrying about any effect on the heart, blood pressure, liver, or even your sleep. A beer that looks like beer, tastes like beer, feels like beer, yet your body treats it as if nothing happened. And it is the perfect choice for people over 50 in the UK today. Let me take you to that name right now. Number 1. Heineken 0.0. Heineken looks like real beer, pours with foam like real beer tastes, cool, lightly bitter, and even the aroma can make you think you are drinking regular Heineken. If you are sitting with friends in a pub, no one will know you are drinking 0.0 unless you say so. You keep the full identity of a beer drinker without having to sacrifice anything inside your body. And from a health perspective, Heineken 0.0 has almost no rival. No alcohol means no pulled heart rhythm, no blood pressure jumping, then falling like a roller coaster, no mild arrhythmia, no risk of wobbling when you stand up, no alcohol waking you in the middle of the night, no interactions with heart medication, antidepressants, or blood pressure tablets. For those aged 50 to 80 who often have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, take aspirin, statins, beta blockers, or antidepressants, removing alcohol completely is an enormous difference. It is like drinking beer without the body having to do any heavy work afterwards. Of course, nothing is absolutely perfect. Heineken 0.0 still has calories, still has some carbs and sugar. If you are trying to lose weight very seriously, or your blood sugar is extremely sensitive, you still need to watch your intake. Some people find it slightly sweeter than the alcoholic version, but that is only a flavour difference, not a health issue. And even in those cases, 0.0 is still dozens of times better than real alcoholic beer. Heineken 0.0 stands at number 1, not because it is the best tasting beer, but because it gives people over 50 exactly what they need: safety, the ability to keep their social experience, no cardiovascular risk, no sleep disruption, no strain on the liver, and no loss of balance. It lets you feel that you are still drinking beer like everyone else without making your body suffer any consequences. And finally, there is one thing you must remember: even when you choose the best beer, how you drink it is the ultimate deciding factor. How much you drink when you drink what you eat with it, and how your body reacts. All of these determine your long-term health. So before you head to the pub tonight, I want to share with you something even more important than this list: the principles of choosing and drinking beer, specifically for those over 50. Principles for choosing and drinking beer. When you cross 50, your body changes in ways many people do not notice. I meet many patients who say they still drink like they did at 30, yet feel more tired, lose sleep more easily, or have a stronger heartbeat after a few pints. This is completely normal. Drinking beer is no longer something the body automatically handles. It is an activity that requires more consideration. So the first and most important principle is how you choose your beer. When you stand before the beer shelf in the supermarket or look at the drinks board in the pub, do not choose based on habit or a familiar logo anymore. The first thing you need to look at is the ABV. That single number determines most of how your evening will feel. Below 4%, your body will feel far more comfortable. The lower, the better. And if you choose 0, you are almost entirely freed from the risks alcohol brings to the heart, blood pressure, sleep, and the medication you are taking. For young people, ABV is just a number. For those over 50, it is the clearest safety scale you can actively choose. After ABV, there is something that sounds simple, but affects your body far more than you think: the gas in beer. Many older adults experience bloating, reflux, or rapid heartbeat after drinking lager without understanding why. It is not because the beer is too strong, but because the gas expands, the stomach alters the heartbeat and makes alcohol absorb faster. When you drink Guinness Smooth Ale or any low-gas beer, you will feel your body relax far more. No stomach pressure, no burping, no burning. This is crucial because once you feel comfortable from the first sip, the whole evening becomes easier. There is something else older adults rarely notice: the ingredients of the beer. Some cheap industrial lagers add maize rice or syrup to reduce cost and make the beer easier to drink. For young people that is fine, but for older adults, especially those with diabetes or gout, these additives make blood sugar rise quickly, trigger mild inflammation, or cause joint pain for days. You do not need to become an expert at reading labels. You only need to remember that the simpler the beer and the closer its ingredients are to real barley, the easier your body will handle it. A small tip I often tell my patients: choose a beer that makes you drink slowly by nature. It sounds strange, but beers that are too smooth, too bland, or too easy to drink often make you drink faster than your body can tolerate. Foster's or Carling are perfect examples. You drink so comfortably that you do not realize you have exceeded your units in one evening. Meanwhile, Guinness or a light ale naturally makes you take small mouthfuls, and that alone keeps you from over-drinking. Slowness is sometimes the very thing that protects your body. If you drink at home, remember one very useful rule: smaller cans are always safer than larger cans. Older adults often have the habit of finishing whatever they have opened. If you pick a 330 ml can, you naturally drink less without forcing yourself. But if it is a 500 ml can, you will finish it whether your body wants it or not. It sounds simple, but this tip is recommended by many doctors in the UK because it genuinely helps control alcohol intake. And finally, choose the beer that suits your situation. If you are going to sit in a pub for a long evening, drink the lightest option possible or switch to 0.0 after the first pint. If you are on blood pressure medication, heart medication, antidepressants, or diabetes medication, prioritize 0.0 because this group is the most affected by alcohol. If you are tired, stressed, sleepy, or dealing with reflux, it is best to skip beer entirely that day. Once you have chosen the right beer, the rest is about how you drink it. Drinking with food helps alcohol absorb more slowly and keeps blood sugar stable. Drinking water in between prevents dehydration, avoids headaches, and keeps the heartbeat steady. Do not drink heavily in one evening, do not drink on an empty stomach, and do not drink right before bed, because alcohol will break your sleep halfway through the night. And remember, your body needs several alcohol-free days each week, so the liver and heart have time to recover. There is something I want you to remember after this list. The beer of 2025 is no longer the beer our grandparents drank. It is no longer pure malt, pure flavour, pure yeast. It is a product of industry cost optimization taxes, additives and marketing strategies that make you drink more and receive less. And not just beer. Many foods drinks, even so-called healthy products today, are no longer what we think they are. That is precisely why I created this channel. I do not want you to wander alone through countless choices that look the same on the outside, but differ greatly in how they affect your health. And if you want to keep discovering the truths, manufacturers never say, subscribe to the channel. We still have much to talk about in this entire world of food and drink that is quietly changing every day. See you in the next video.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.